I'm Joseph,
And I'm Nick.
and this is Fish Jelly.
Sure is.
Sure is. Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How was your week?
Oh, okay. Busy. There was a lot going on.
Yeah, same.
I got a new car.
Yeah.
So
Did that again.
Did that again. I'm trying to count how many. I should have done this before we started talking, but you've had how many cars?
Since I've known you?
No,
Or in my life?
since the first car your grandma helped you buy.
Oh, God.
Right?
Yeah, she did. She sure did.
Oh, was that shady?
No.
Oh.
But I'm thankful for her.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So my 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, 7 or 8. Not a lot.
I think I've had like at least 20.
Yeah, you've had a lot.
Probably more, maybe like 25.
But I hate car shopping.
I don't. Yes, I can see why. I think the process of getting the new car is the worst part. Mm-hmm. But the idea of finding something you like is fun. And then getting it. But
Sure.
The process is shitty. Although this most recent transaction was pretty swift. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank goodness for a good, excellent credit.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yesterday we went to see a movie.
Yeah, though I think we're going to cover...
Are we?
I thought so.
I didn't take notes.
Oh, well,
I don't know that we need to.
I don't know that you need notes for this film.
Well, spoiler, the film is called The House Next Door.
Meet the Blacks 2.
Meet the Blacks 2.
So we're not, confused about where this is in a universe.
We saw it at Universal City Walk, the AMC.
Because Joseph did not want to go to Baldwin Hills.
It's
It's fine.
That's controversial. No.
Controversial.
Well, I'm not going to watch a movie like that in an environment where I feel like it's going to get a little rowdy, but...
That film needed something rowdy to happen, but...
It's pretty bad.
It is...
I don't even know if I want to review it.
Oh, okay. Well...
No, we can. If you feel... If the spirit is calling you to do it, we can do it. I feel bad talking about a film that has people I like.
Sure.
Mike Epps and Cat Williams.
Mm-hmm. What's his name? I thought was funny too. Lil Duval.
Oh, Lil Duval's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And I was starting to think while I was on the toilet earlier that I think Mike Epps is one of those people, especially like my age, my age range, where I think he's just part of the culture and we all think like, oh, Mike Epps is so funny. Mike Epps is so funny. But it's like, he's really just kind of known for like the Friday sequels. And he has a few sort of like, known lines that he's had. But I don't know that I think that he has this amazing comedic portfolio.
I don't think... I've thought about this as we were driving home, compared to... Because this is a parody universe. Because the first film, Meet the Blacks, is The Purge. It's kind of riffing on that. And there's a clip shown in this from the film, the classic blaxploitation film, Blackula. So that's clearly where he's riffing from. But... this just has nothing on the Wayans brothers, and something like A Haunted House.
Oh, no.
Those aren't... I'm not going to say that those are great films, but the first Haunted House where What's-His-Face is having sex with the Annabelle doll...
was pretty great.
And to cast the net out even further, for comparison's sake, something like Boo, the Medea Halloween film, the first one at least, with the supporting cast members, there's some very funny people that had moments that made that watchable.
Sure.
The sequel, Boo 2, no. But, yeah, I think what this needed was an actual script.
I don't think there was... If there was a script, it was like 20 pages long.
And they let these very notable people kind of just riff off of each other. And there are moments I chuckled, but they're very few and far between.
And I just realized Mike Epps' middle name is Elliot. So shout out to my brother-in-law. Yeah, the bulk of the movie is. We're going to review it, so it doesn't matter. But it's just like, yeah, it just feels like it's mostly improv.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go in thinking it's going to be silly, and to me, it had promise at first. Like there was even a sense of the burbs in there, and Dion Taylor has become, I think, somewhat of a notable director with The Intruder and what's that movie he did with Michael Ealy and Hilary Swank?
I can't remember.
Not Infidelity.
Wow.
Anyhow,
moving on. So I guess we should start off the way we have been, which is shitting on Drag Race Down Under and how much we don't like it. So this most recent episode, Who Went Home?
Fatale was the name.
Fatale,
Sorry.
yeah.
Who Went Home? The only one that I had an affinity for, which was Electroshock.
That's right. He was my favorite.
Well,
I didn't think he would win, but I did like him the most in and out of drag.
Especially when they tried very hard to place this underdog, the underdog parameters that they shellac on people.
I don't want to repeat what we've said the last 5 times, but I think Ketamine rubs me the wrong way because he reminds me of this variety of gay male who's like...
Of the what? Of the Caucasoid?
The Caucasoid persuasion who is not the most attractive, probably really insecure because his body, he's shaped like a stack of VHS tapes. Then he's mean-spirited, covets a lot of the sort of like standard beauty tropes.
Yeah.
And then even his name, he spells ketamine like it's a play on the drug, which is spelled M-I-N-E. Or it ends with M-I-N-E, but he spells his like mean, M-E-A-N. Mm-hmm. So it's like you live up to your name. You don't seem like a very nice person, but then in the confessionals we get moments of vulnerability, and to me that's like you can throw that shit away. It's inauthentic. I don't care.
Well, the thing is, we all are vulnerable, so it just is unfortunate that when you see that side of people, you realize that the persona they project onto the world really does disqualify a sense of empathy I'm supposed to be building for you.
Right. But I don't know, it just bothers me. Even the name, I mean, it's like Boozy Badass being like a little baby or something. It's like, well, why'd you call yourself badass if you...
I think what's most disappointing about ketamine is the treatment of Electroshock, considering that...
Electra works for ketamine.
And is her friend.
Well, so they say. Didn't seem like it. Electra definitely played that up. Like, Electra seemed to honor their friendship more than ketamine.
And definitely shows himself as the bigger person.
So now we have the top 4, and I'm not rooting for any of these. I'm hashtag none of y'all because I don't think any of them seem like winners. Certainly not interesting. And then there's a clip of the next episode where Rue is calling someone the future of drag.
Oh God, I think it's getting to the point of recycled phrases that have become meaningless, like the words, gourmet or
diva
or prestigious.
Moving on to the
or
HBO
iconic.
Okay, moving on to HBO Max's Legendary.
Oh no, for a second, where? The Art Simone thing, what happened? How did this person just come back and there's been no explanation?
I think maybe we'll find out if there's a reunion or something. I don't know. It'll be like how Willem got kicked off and then it's going to take like 10 years for us to know why.
But there's even, they played that up with Willem though. This to me seems like Rue has gotten tired of, it's Rue's final decision, sure, but this is beyond RuPaul at this point. Who's holding the purse strings? Who's making the final decisions? Because he doesn't seem to have any affinity for Art Simone.
Well, I don't have the answer to that. But anyway, moving on to HBO Max's Legendary, which I still really enjoy.
Yeah,
but I'm so upset the House of Tishi went home.
That was I've been thinking a lot about that too, and they were the strongest house of that season
from the beginning.
Yes, and consistently.
Okay, this is what the problem is: the scoring.
Yes,
and it's twofold. One, these judges and their bullshit ass scores are infuriating. And I know Bob and Monet have a podcast called Sibling Watchery where they review Legendary. And that's like their number one gripe on the show is about the show.
Well,
is
it's so
that their judging is so inconsistent,
arbitrary.
And it's like, I don't understand why. Okay, so for example, La Roche,
Yes,
who's the most frustrating.
Yes. Well, Jamila is frustrating.
Well, Jamila. We'll get to her. Law's frustrating because he is the fashion person. Mm-hmm. So I wish he would just judge the fashion.
Right.
But it's like from one house to the next, he is deciding like based on a feeling or a look someone gave that he doesn't like what they did, or I don't like that you were being, not humble, so I'm going to score you lower. I don't like that. It doesn't make sense.
I agree.
Then Jamila, she throws out tens like
They grow on trees.
Or she'll say like, I know you have a lot of potential, so I'm going to give you a 9, even though the performance was only worth a 6. And then Megan Thee Stallion's the opposite. Mm-hmm. She will give people lower scores than maybe what they deserve because she's like, I know you can do better, so this should motivate you.
Yeah.
The only one who I think, and this should be no surprise because she's the one who actually is like a ballroom
by far
icon, is Naomi.
Yeah.
I think her critiques and scores are fair and accurate. And then these guest judges who have no business. Not a single one, I think, season 2 so far has been qualified. Adam Lambert.
I know.
Adam Lambert.
Demi Lovato.
What's the joke Lady Bunny said about Demi Lovato?
Something about don't bring spoons to her house, I think.
Yeah, what? Anyway, yeah, infuriating. And then the guest judges are often the ones who are the tiebreakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the Tishy thing is so unfortunate because they weren't the lowest scored ever, but they didn't have tens across the board this time.
But here's the other thing we didn't mention. So because of the scoring, the way it goes is they get a score for the house, and then they have individual challenges.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Yeah, so oftentimes so what has happened on many episodes is the team with the lowest house score usually ends up winning because they won one of these auxiliary challenges.
And boost their points.
It boosts their points.
And then causes some of the other people that did just fine that week to fall into the bottom and have to battle.
Or better than fine.
Yeah, and Tishy did better than fine. And I really hate how the narrative changes. So the next episode, the coaches are saying, like, House of Tishy, they were at the top and they had one bad week. No, they didn't have a bad week. But that becomes the fabric of the narrative, is that they failed. But they didn't. All because of this
bullshit scoring.
Stupid rigmarole. But so and then what was her name? Simone, who walked off the stage, which I'm actually very happy that she did, and had La Roche out there looking like a fool screaming after her. But
yeah, I think she was justified in walking off the stage
because it is some bullshit. But both La Roche and Megan Thee Stallion came back at her saying, "What? Like you didn't do the best, you didn't deserve it." But in actual ballroom, when there is a battle, that is it. There's not this like rigmarole where this scoring system where your house, there isn't.
They wouldn't have been in the bottom.
There wouldn't have been in the bottom.
Didn't have this bullshit scoring.
Yes, the best would be the best because that is the rubric. But then they muck it all up with this bullshit, and then it's just certainly disappointing. And then I'm very tired of hearing like it's $100,000 at stake. Yeah, that you have to share, split
$100,000 is not a lot of money.
So stop.
Certainly not when you split it 5 ways after taxes.
Stop dangling that carrot because most of these people might be out here because $20,000 is not a life changer, maybe 100, but.
They've made a lot of sacrifices. They've had to go to, I think they filmed season 2 in LA. Most of them are probably not from LA. Like, yeah, these people have made large sacrifices. It is a tremendous opportunity on a major platform, but still, like, yeah, stop bringing up 100,000.
And it's their art, and it's their creativity. For you to just arbitrarily be like, well, I didn't like this, and you failed this week. Yes, something needs to happen. They need to revamp how they judge that.
I think I'm passionate, or I sound passionate about this show because it is really great watching these people who are so talented that I think they deserve better judging. I think they need to wipe everyone off except Naomi.
Yeah, I agree.
And why isn't Deshawn a judge?
Right.
Deshawn is So talented.
Why can't he be a tiebreaker at least?
No, he should be a judge.
But I mean,
he's an amazing MC. He should. I mean, I know in ballroom the MC doesn't judge, but like he should be the tiebreaker. Yeah. Not Adam Lambert.
I know.
Not Chance the Rapper's brother, who is like, that is outrageous. Taraji, that was embarrassing. Tiffany Haddish wasn't as embarrassing, but it's just like, how are these people qualified? It feels a little crunchy, but we're spending way too long on that.
Sure.
Okay, so you finished season 1 of the television series Dirty John.
Right, from 2018. We're way behind on that.
But what was your overall thought? Because you didn't know
anything,
and you knew that I had listened to the podcast. Yeah. So I think you knew a little bit, but maybe you had forgotten, or maybe I never told you like the.
I think you might have, but it didn't register. Like watching.
Okay, so we need to be quicker, I think. But first, tell me what you think about the actual story.
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, all of that kind of bullshit is fascinating to me. But it was also very frustrating, and I think Connie Britton did an excellent job in bringing me to levels of frustration because. I mean, although I don't come from a wealthy background, I can see my own mother making those kind of decisions that are just like, what the hell? And I liked both the daughters, who are spoiled brats, of course, but I like both those actresses a lot, Juno Temple and Julie Garner. But it was frustrating. But the moment where all is revealed and the younger daughter stabs him to death was very good. And I came away really thinking that was an interesting, because her explanation is that she was into The Walking Dead, and so she had fantasized about what to do in a zombie apocalypse or something along those lines. So I think that's a really interesting take on how our violent, obsessed culture can also prepare us mentally in ways for things.
That's interesting that's what spoke to you. I think what spoke to me about the story and then the television show, which mimics the story, I think, about 90%.
Sure.
Is that, and I think we feel this with, like, our parents oftentimes and friends, where we get frustrated about their romantic inclinations and their willingness or unwillingness to move on. But really, it's more complicated than just, like, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend is awful, you should leave them. Well, I mean, based on what I see out here in these streets, like, it's hard for people to move on. It's hard when, it's not so easy to say, well, if you're unhappy, you should leave. Well, I mean, if that were the case, we'd all be single. Like, right. It's not that easy. And she had her reasons. And the reality is, I don't need to explain to anyone why I'm with you.
Right.
I don't need to explain to anyone. And maybe people see the things that you do and think, like, hypothetically, that, I don't deserve that. But it's like, you don't know what kind of relationship we have. You don't know what we talk about. You don't know. So please don't tell me what to do with my life. And what was really powerful to me about, I just forgot her name, Deborah?
I think so.
Is that her name? She wasn't complaining to her family.
No.
It wasn't like she was calling her daughters up and crying on the phone like, oh, John did this to me and John did that to me. No. She kept that shit to herself.
That's true.
So it's like, if I'm not riddling or saddling my loved ones, friends and family with my problems, then why do you feel so free to, like, try to fix my problems for me?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's what really spoke to me about her, is like, it's so easy to say, oh, she's so stupid, how could she stay with him? We don't know.
I don't think...
She chose to share her story after, so then when we see the details, we're like, girl, how could you do it? But in the moment, it was frustrating watching how awful her daughters were about it.
Yeah.
Because your mom clearly created a very successful business for herself and supported you two bitches. So it's like...
I don't think she came across as stupid. Even, brilliant people make stupid mistakes or choices. And I like that it's set up, because on paper she's married 4 times before. And of course, people will automatically judge that. But, trying to meet men and find companionship, like, these men are trash out here. So yes, showing her going on a bunch of dates and making the attempt. And I have had older female friends, it's heterosexuals in the dating scene. It's like, it's hard. Like, it's hard.
I could totally see myself, like, at my current age, if I were single and I'm well off, and I meet some young hottie who is just like catering to my every need, and I know that he's probably like gassing me a little bit, and I'm probably like tricking a little bit, and it's like, but I'm aware. Like, I'm aware that this person who's, you know, like a little prize and who's doing all this shit for me, it comes at a price. Like, yeah, so I bought you that Jaguar convertible, and yes, I pay for your credit card bill, and but that's the exchange. And I don't know that this woman, after the fact, didn't evaluate that and thought, well, in the end, he makes me feel nice. I enjoy being with him. From what we saw, he was very kind to her. And I think that because she was a consultant on the television show, I think it was important for her to show that. Like, he wasn't awful to her.
Right, yeah, he wasn't.
The only time he got a little out of pocket was when she challenged him. But that's nothing, you know, you can't handle. For 95% of the time, he was a doting partner. And I think, okay, so I let him drive around in my Maserati. He stole a little $80,000 from my bag, which they never actually explained what happened to that money.
Right.
In the podcast, it does explain. I think he may have purchased a home somewhere with it. But either way, if this lady's a millionaire and all she had to do was spend a couple $100,000 to be happy for a time, I don't know that that's not worth it.
Right.
Yes, the collateral damage of her children being very upset with her has value.
Sure.
But they're also adults, two of whom rely on their mother to live their lavish lifestyle.
And she had a son, yeah.
The son seemed more independent.
Yeah.
But
I was reminded several times of the film Boyhood, the Patricia Arquette character in that, as a woman in Texas trying to find a man, and impossible.
okay, I want to move on. So you're planning on going to Cannes in July.
Yeah.
And I understand some announcements were made, and you've done some collating, and now you have your top 10 most anticipated films from Cannes.
Yes, I won't take a lot of your time.
Me or the listener? Go ahead.
Well, I guess you.
Well, you already have, so let's... No, you. This is your chance to
shine.
to shine, so go ahead.
Well, no, we mentioned this last time. I was waiting for the Directors Fortnight sidebar to announce their program. And then this past Thursday, the official Cannes program added an additional 9 titles, none of which made it into the actual competition. So I think it's looking like they'll close out at 24 films competing for the Palme d'Or. But of those new announcements, very, very excited for a new Gaspar Noé film called Vortex that's starring Dario Argento and was filmed in secret during the pandemic. You know Noé. He did Climax, which was one of my favorite films that year. Irreversible, Enter the Void, etc.
Irreversed. That makes me think of the Jessica Simpson song "Irreplaceable."
Oh,
when she was trying to be like a pop star.
Totally different tone. Totally. So just to, I'll run through these because I talked to a few before, but rounding out my top 10, besides Vortex, Benedetta, the lesbian nun film from Verhoeven, Annette, the opening night film by Leos Carax, and I just watched the Sparks Brothers documentary yesterday, which for the most part I really liked, and I'm very happy that that's coming out before Annette, because they of course wrote that in conjunction with Carax and did all the music.
That documentary is one of your top 10?
No, I'm saying that documentary is releasing before the Cannes Film Festival, when this major film that they're a part of, they all create. Red Rocket by Sean Baker.
These are in no particular order.
No, not really.
Okay.
Just Red Rocket by Sean Baker. You know Sean Baker.
He did Tangerine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He is revisiting the adult film industry again. If you ever saw his 2012 film Starlet, starring Dree Hemingway, highly recommended. But this is about a kind of washed-out porn star returning to small-town Texas with a lot of first-time actors, but it's in the competition. Big deal for Sean Baker. Very excited. Titane, directed by Julie Ducournau, which is about a man that shows up bruised at an airport claiming to be this kid that disappeared years prior, and the disappeared kid's parents swoop in and pick him up, and then a bunch of murders start happening in the area. Very excited for that. The Story of My Wife by Ildiko Enyedi, which I read the book, by Milan Fust. Enyedi, Hungarian filmmaker who won the the Golden Bear for her last film. I'm excited for that. I really like the book. It stars Lea Seydoux. Drive My Car by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, which is based on a short story by Murakami from the collection Men Without Women from 2017. Love Murakami, love Hamaguchi. I know I've talked about Hamaguchi before because you had a reaction to me praising Happy Hour, his 5-hour opus from a couple years ago that I love. He also had one of my favorite films that premiered at Berlin this year, Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which, unless you had access to Berlin screenings, lots haven't seen, but when that finally comes out, that's a vignette-styled film. House Arrest, it's in Un Certain Regard, the latest film by Alexei German Jr. All I know about is it's a satirical drama. Alexei German Jr., I'm a fan of his work, probably more of a fan of his father, who's a notable Russian filmmaker. Hard to Be a God was his swan song back in 2013, which is an amazing piece of cinema. The Souvenir Part 2 by Joanna Hogg, which is, of course, the follow-up to The Souvenir, starring Tilda Swinton and her daughter, Honor Swinton Byrne. It's a continuation of that tale. Big deal film that's going to be in Director's Fortnight. Obviously, excited to see it. And rounding out my list is another Director's Fortnight title, Medusa, which I think is the second, maybe third film of a Brazilian filmmaker, Anita Roca da Silveira. And it sounds fascinating. Been following it for a while. It's about a young woman that, along with a bunch of other young women in her area, go out at night and in disguise and beat down any devious women. And of course, there's a change of pace for her, as the title would indicate, I believe.
All done?
Yeah, how was that? Was that painful? Were you listening?
I mean, I can hear you. So, moving on to new projects.
No comments on any of those?
I think you summed up nicely whatever you said, and I'll wait to hear what you think after you watch them. So new projects. There's something from Todd Haynes.
Yes, clap, clap, clap your hands. New Todd Haynes movie. Very excited. And he's reuniting with Julianne Moore, also starring Natalie Portman, in a project called May December. And, I think Haynes is almost always... I didn't love Wonderstruck, which Julianne Moore's in. But, Safe, Far From Heaven. You can't get better than those two, I think. So I'm very excited for that.
Tyler Perry posted something on Instagram last week, a few days ago. It was like a graphic for a movie poster for Why Did I Get Married Again? Mm-hmm. And then he wrote, should we revisit this?
Which means conversations have had to have already happened.
And within like an hour, it had like thousands of comments and 100,000 likes. And of course, I would be very excited for that, only if Janet Jackson returns to play Patricia Agnew.
Well, there's who our cat is named after.
Who our cat is named after.
Aggie. He'd be a fool not to do it without her, but...
Well, I'm sure he would love to have her. It would just be whether she wants to do it, which I don't know. Maybe she would. She already did 3 movies with him, so... Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exciting. Mm-hmm. Lastly, for new projects, there's more than that. Okay, The Hand of Orlok.
Oh, so, I only bring that up because, I like it's based on a classic novel by Maurice Renard that has been made many times into films. Probably my favorite version is the Peter Lorre film, Mad Love. But it's about a pianist who loses his hands and he gets a hand transplant and they're the hands of a serial killer. And so he starts killing people, which, perfect for Peter Lorre. But Melville Poupeau is going to be in a new version of The Hands of Orlok, French language. And I like Melville Poupeau, so I'm excited for that.
Okay, there's something called Nobody Likes Me.
Yes. A pair of Czech filmmakers, Peter Kazda and Thomas Weinreb. In 2016, they directed a film called I, Olga Hepnerova, which is about this 22-year-old mass murderer in 1973 Czechoslovakia, who rammed a huge truck into a crowd of people and killed several of them, becoming the country's first serial killer. And it's kind of about her experiences in her trial. Stark black and white film. It was on John Waters' top 10 films of the year. Very intriguing and interesting. They've had a new project that I've been following for a while called Nobody Likes Me. It's finally in production. It's a contemporary set tale. It's described as Antigone and details a romance where one of the participants is a secret intersexual.
Okay. Lastly, for new projects, Midnight in the Switchgrass.
Oh my God. So I just happened to see that this trailer dropped for a detective thriller starring Bruce Willis and Megan Fox called Midnight in the Switchgrass, which you'll have to look it up, but it's directed by Randall Emmett, who is a producer of many Scorsese movies, but you might know him as the man that 50 Cent dragged on social media for a long time, and we got that brief gem of I'm Sorry, Fofty. Do you remember that?
No. I mean, it kind of.
Oh, that was probably several years back, but it looked like a hot mess. And I will look forward to reviewing it.
Next, talking about films you watched this past week that we didn't review. Risky Business.
Well, just that I happen to watch on my own. Yeah, I've never seen Risky Business, so I've been covering the Tribeca Film Festival, so I've had little time to watch anything, fun. But I did fit in Risky Business. That's a 1983 classic that brought Tom Cruise to prominence. You were kind of watching some of it in the background.
I mean, I only caught the, famous scene of him dancing in his undies. Mm-hmm. And the opening when he's with his friends talking about sex. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was it. I don't even know. Oh, and then what appears to be a black trans woman shows up as the sex worker who was hired, and then him trying to get rid of her.
And then
But then they go on an adventure.
He drives her back home, but she gives him the number of Rebecca De Mornay.
Do they end up having... and then I did see that because he has sex with her, but then can't pay.
Right. He has to go.
So how does that end up?
Well, they end up being involved, and her pimp is basically Joe Pantoliano. She has a brothel basically open up in Tom Cruise's parents' home while his parents are out, and makes all the money that he needs to pay for the car that he wrecked because it goes into the river. And then she takes him off on this fantasy, like having sex on a train, which is also a famous scene. And then when he comes home, all the other hookers cleaned his house out. And all that money he made from this night of pleasure with the brothel, as the pimp of the house, he has to pay Joe Pantoliano back to get all the possessions returned. And that's basically the thrust of that story. It was... like some things, it's like, why is this a big deal? But very frank about sexuality for its time. Paul Brickman directed it, and the only other theatrical release he did is a film in 1990 that I really like called Men Don't Leave, starring Jessica Lange and I remember Chris O'Donnell, which we have a copy of, and it made me want to rewatch it. But he's probably better known as, he had more success as a screenwriter. That same year of Risky Business, he penned Deal of the Century, which William Friedkin directed, starring Sigourney Weaver and Chevy Chase and Gregory Hines, which was kind of a failure, but, I put that film on periodically.
Next is something called Holler.
Yes, Nicole Riegel directed film, opened this week, starring Jessica Barden as a down-and-out girl in Ohio who takes on illegal work in a scrap metal business to try to pay for her schooling. Very somber film. Besides the specifics of the location and the class of people it's trying to depict, really nothing new, but a good Jessica Barden performance, who's an actress that I've liked in several things recently, including Pink Skies Ahead, and she's in that film Jungle Land with Charlie Hunnam, where the brothers are boxing and she's the girl they're transporting.
Okay. Lastly, a movie called Censor.
Yeah, so I saw that out of Sundance this year in 2021. I didn't love it. It got very well reviewed. But I rewatched it again in anticipation for reviewing it. And you didn't want to see it because you weren't impressed with what you saw the first time. And I just...
Oh, that film.
Yeah.
Yes.
I very much love that period of the video nasties of what the UK tried to do in the early 80s to put all these films on a list. And so it focuses on this woman played by Nev Algar who's watches these movies and makes the required cuts so that they can be put on VHS and not be banned, etc. And in the background, we learn that her sister was kidnapped years ago, and they don't know where to find her. But all of a sudden, she sees this actress in a video nasty, and she believes that's her. And then, about the midway point, the film I think loses all its energy and gets a bit ridiculous, which I like ridiculous. It just didn't have any kind of real energy or menace for revisiting such a lucrative period where you could do so much.
All right, well, moving on to our topic today. You watched a documentary called The Kids,
which premiered on June 11th at the Tribeca Film Festival.
This documentary is about the film Kids.
It's about the actors, the non-professional actors who appeared in the film. It's kind of like a Where Are They Now?
What year was that film?
1995. It came out at the Cannes Film Festival.
So what would you like to say about this documentary? What inspired you to want to talk about it?
Well, I did try to get you to watch it, which I believe you didn't have time for. But so the two kids that are in it, Justin Pierce and Harold Hunter, that died.
They died many years after the documentary?
Pierce, I think, killed himself in the Bellagio, or another Las Vegas hotel in 2000.
Okay.
And Harold Hunter died of a cocaine overdose in 2006. But you were also familiar with them because we recently watched Soleil Moon Frye's documentary Kid 90.
Yes.
And she had relationships with those young men.
Oh, that's right, when she goes off to college in New York.
Yeah, she got connected with them, and she talks about mourning the loss of them as well.
Really quickly, could you tell me, what are some of the shocking moments from the documentary? Like things that you learned that...
Well, nothing's shocking to me. It's just distressing and upsetting.
What about I've never seen Kids.
You've never seen Kids?
I know that it involves kids engaging in risky behavior, sex, drugs. If someone's HIV positive, I think.
Okay, so let's talk about Kids for a second. So I remember that came out in 95, so I was in 5th grade. And maybe a year later, when it was on VHS, it was one of those films that, everybody snuck over to somebody's house to watch. So I remember watching Kids and remember being shocked at the sexuality, because it opens with Leo Fitzpatrick playing a kid named Telly, who it's his desire to deflower as many virgins as possible. That's the thrust of the film, and it opens on him having sex with a 12-year-old girl, and then going about the city and doing drugs and blah 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 blah. And then one of his ex-partners, Jenny, played by Chloe Sevigny, gets a positive HIV test result. So it's the 90s, there's no way to get a hold of anybody. So she's trying to move around the city in his wake to tell him that while he's having sex with all these people. And I haven't watched the movie probably since then. I do own it. And I would have liked to have time to rewatch it after the documentary. But what I remember is that she... I believe it ends with her being raped, passed out at a party.
Oh, wow.
So it's a distressing film. It got a lot of attention, lot of critical applause. It was the first film of Larry Clark, who was in his 50s, I believe, at the time, who, as we see... So we talked to a lot of the surviving members of the cast, people that have gone on with their lives but had this very rocky, dysfunctional youth living on these streets and getting into the skateboarding culture that Larry Clark ingratiated himself upon. And then there's Harmony Korine, who's become a very notable film director himself, who is 19 years old and was at NYU, who wrote the screenplay for Kids. But those two, ingratiated themselves upon this community for a very long time. And got these kids to do all kinds of stuff. The drugs that you're seeing happen in the film, this documentary is confirming it's real. So the documentary has a clip from the Cannes Film Festival press conference after the film premiered there, and the international press was very concerned with what they saw, and it's a terrible press conference because it's just people were distressed, and Larry Clark just flat out lies about the drugs because these kids are smoking weed and they're getting all fucked up, and probably the sex. Anyhow, where was I going with that? So a lot of it really is these people surviving, kind of paying homage to Justin and Harold.
So what I thought was interesting when you were attempting to explain it the other day was that you said some of those actors only received $1,000.
Oh, so the film, yeah, the main cast, they kind of received $1,000 and that was it. And Harold Hunter, who was the black kid that died of the overdose, was the people comment, he was very excited he could go buy these expensive new shoes.
So that made me start thinking about like how, obviously they were exploited.
And there's notably, infamously in that film, a scene where he shows his penis.
Okay.
Like they convinced him to get naked, and that's a very infamous scene in that movie as well. So you have like this. I wish the documentary had gone further into like the fetishization of black bodies and stuff that also is going on there, because after the film premiered at Cannes, it was a runaway success for these people had careers on it. They had grown. These people thought they had grown close to them, completely cut off ties.
Sure.
And left them. Somebody commented, we were left where all of these people thought this was going to be a break for us. And Justin and Harold both moved to LA for a time to try to be actors, but there was no one there for them. And at the Independent Spirit Awards, I think Justin Pierce won Best New Debut, and there's a really touching speech that both those kids give. And just, I don't know.
But getting back to the idea that they were exploited, I started thinking about the transition from a film like Kids to what we see now with not only reality TV, but social media. And I think when we were talking about the documentary, the Kids documentary a few days ago, this idea of like fame in the wake of like reality TV or social media and things, people, videos going viral. So the cast members from Kids who suffered the most seemed to not, like they weren't well equipped to deal with the attention they were receiving, which snowballs into behaviors and activities that are destructive, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for the remaining, 15 minutes we have, I thought like it might be interesting to talk about this idea of putting oneself in a position where garnering a lot of attention is possible. Because if I think about every time you post something on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you make a YouTube video, it could go viral.
Sure.
Right?
Well, I think some people that's the hope.
And some people hope for that. But are people really equipped to manage what it would mean to become very notable overnight with no financial benefits?
Right.
And I think it's interesting growing up in Los Angeles, living here now, seeing a lot of people who want nothing more than the attention that comes with some sort of celebrity, good or bad. And then I just think about so many shows we watch and like the positions people put themselves in, like the really negative personas they allow to be placed on them in exchange for like the slightest bit of shine.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought maybe to bring it back to us, like what do you think about the idea that it could happen one day that you are notable? And how would that make you feel? Like, does it stress you out? Does the prospect of trying to go to, Tender Greens to get lunch and having people stop you, or having people comment on everything you do and...
I don't have a problem ignoring comments on social media, but I would not want to give up anonymity. But also, I'd have to believe that, or I'd like to believe that if I became notable, it would be over something positive and something of a worthy nature or cause and would hopefully benefit me in other ways. But it's not something I desire or want. But I would be bummed out having to give up certain things.
Okay, that's interesting because a lot of people say they don't want it, but then you're doing things that could make it possible. So,
Sure.
So it's like, how do we reconcile that?
Well, to me, it's there are other things that you would hope to spin it off into, right, or to do, because I don't know if you want to talk about what our eventual plans are, regardless, but creating something that could be a hub for others, in like queer and right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I want to talk about all that right now.
Okay, well,
but I think it's a good general thing that, like, yes, you can continue with the idea that you like the idea of having enough attention that you could shine a spotlight on other people and build a platform where other voices, are heard. So yes, I agree. I think I would want the attention for that reason as well, to be able to have a voice and share that voice with people who might not have a voice. So there are positive aspects to it, but I think bringing it back to that documentary and hearing about what ultimately happened to a lot of those cast members and people not being equipped to deal with attention, fame, money, I think a nice, if I ever did, or if we ever did become notable and get some traction off of something, I think the benefit of being older, already having an education, already being financially stable, already having, we already own a home, and I already drive a nice car, and we already get to do the things we want to do. I already can go out to eat if I want to, and there are a lot of things that a lot of people want that we already have. So I often joke that my tagline on, if I ever become a Real Housewife of, I guess, South Bay, that might, how in the opening they all have a tagline? Mine would be, I don't want more options, I just want nicer things.
Okay.
Which is from AbFab. Oh. But that's kind of how I feel about if I ever were to become notable. Like, I only have a couple friends. I don't need more people in my shit trying to get something from me. I don't need, I don't need more things because I already have all the things that I need and want. Obviously, with more money and more access, my things would be nicer. But so I feel very comfortable that if we ever did become, let's say, famous, it wouldn't manifest in the way it does for a lot of people.
Sure.
Also,
well, yeah, because I always think about, what was that series last year, Love is Blind, where the one...
Oh, the one.
Erica.
What was her name?
Was it Erica?
It wasn't Erica.
The 34-year-old.
It's worth looking up, though. But continue.
Because I think the aftermath was, did she move out of Chicago or something? And
was it Jessica? It was Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah, she had to leave her hometown because yes, that's a good example. She had to leave her hometown because people were she represented herself so negatively.
That you allow people, because there's always going to be trolls and haters and people that want to cut you down. But if you are shining a light on as your best self, and trying to be, I think if you put yourself out there as a clown, then that is the karmic energy you're going to get back, I guess.
Well, there are ramifications. Like,
yeah.
if I don't know what she, I think she had a professional job,
yeah.
And it's like, well, now you're notable for something negative. So that certainly can't benefit you as a professional who I think works directly with customers. So that was a poor decision on her part. I also think about season 2 of The Circle. There was a player named Courtney, a gay black man, who appeared... I mean, he looked a little elderly, but I think he was like 24 or whatever. But he just presented himself in a way that I thought was so unfavorable. And it's like, is it worth it, girl? For like... what did he get? Maybe a boost, and maybe he went from having 600 Instagram followers to 40,000. But really, what does that get you? Nothing. So,
it's so hard with that our behaviors that we exhibit like that are self-defense mechanisms, I think, but really, there's no one out there that's really going to try to read behind whatever dispositions or trauma that is causing you to act this way.
No.
So.
And I was thinking about the kids documentary in that, like, in this world, no one gives a shit about what you're doing.
Right.
No one is out here thinking, oh, Joseph, I think that a better use of your finances would be to invest this way, not this way. And, oh, maybe if you did. No one cares. No one is like telling you like, oh, a better career path would be this, or let me mentor you here. No one is doing that. You are fully able. I could go right now and lease a Bentley for $3,000 a month. They'll give it to me.
Uh-huh.
And it makes no financial sense.
Right.
And I would be in financial ruin because I wouldn't be able to pay my other bills. They wouldn't stop me. They would hand me that key, fill it up with gas, and let me be on my merry way. Or as a 17-year-old was allowed to borrow an insane amount of money to go to college with no understanding of what paying that back would look like, right? No one cared.
No.
It's just an option that's there for me.
Yeah.
Or, in the home we live in now, like, getting financing ready, and the kind of numbers that they gave us for what we could buy were reckless.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just reckless. Like, no, I'm not going to buy a house for that amount. Like, how would I pay that back?
Right.
I would be under stress. Like, I would constantly be stressed out. It would affect my quality of life.
Right.
But they don't care.
No.
Right? The loan officer gets a percentage of the loan amount.
So
they don't give a damn.
More the merrier for them, yeah.
More the merrier. Take as many 100,000s as we'll give you.
I think what...
So when you think about the kids who signed up to do this movie, it's like, well, how responsible is the filmmaker to anything? It's like, I gave you an opportunity, you're an adult.
But you're dealing with these fucked up kids. What's distressing is like the adult in the scenario, the person who knows better, is dealing with these fucked up kids. You are changing your style of dress and behavior to walk amongst them, and then just kind of abandon them. And I think...
But that's everything.
That is everything, but we need to get to a place where that is not... That shouldn't be seen as okay. That you are able to flourish, at least for a period, off of the backs of others in this sense. It's, kind of like there's a thing in social work where even just studying a community or asking for people to take tests to get results, like there is a growing movement to, you have to give back in some way. You have to, and maybe that's something small, maybe it's not, maybe it's like not cutting off ties or whatever, but you can't just, it's, what my review of the kids documentary was, it really just nailed that the 1995 movie is an exploitation film.
Yeah. But what you're talking about is integrity.
Yes.
And you can't impose integrity on people, right? I mean, that's something that people have to find on their own. And I would suspect most people who are interested in fame and money are not aligned with integrity. So then the onus is on the subject, on us, to look out for ourselves and be more careful. Like, no one is looking out for you in any way, shape, or form. As a 42-year-old man who has done all right with his life, I'm here to tell everyone, no one gives a shit about what you're doing. You could go hungry and die in the gutter, and people will drive right by and take a photo and share it with their friends. Like, no one cares. And that sounds awful and I'm being extreme, but I think a lot of people out here are being exploited. A lot of shit we see on TV, a lot of these Netflix series and these stupid reality shows, these people are being straight up exploited. All you fools on Instagram, getting half naked to, promote a brand. I work for a company that works with micro-influencers, and these people don't get anything but the free product and a commitment to post about it. So it's like, so you just got half naked on Instagram to then like get a free pair of underwear. Yeah. Like what is the benefit of that? I would argue that there is none. So, we have to evaluate for ourselves. Like, are you okay with possibly everyone all of your coworkers, your family seeing you half naked so that you got like a free $30 pair of Andrew Christian undies? If you ask me, I would say hell no. So, but that's on me.
Right. Well, yeah, it depends on what you want.
Everyone doing sex work, I'm specifically talking about OnlyFans. It's like, that's a huge... I mean, there's nothing wrong with...
Of course not.
With adult video making, with sex work. I support it, but I also think it's a choice. And who's responsible for making that choice? You clicked I agree. You uploaded the videos. You placed your bank account information so you can receive the 12 cents a video you make. And it's just like, you have to evaluate that. You have to evaluate it. So I'm not ragging on, I haven't seen Kids and I didn't watch the Kids documentary, but hearing you talk about it made me think that, like, we're all out here being exploited. And the only person who's really responsible for that is us.
Right, but I think that, if you have the ability to say something, you should.
Oh, 100%. And just to be clear, there are people who are exploited who were manipulated, tricked, who are vulnerable. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who are actively seeking a certain type of attention, a certain type of fame, a certain type of notoriety, a certain financial gain. And then when it goes south, it's like, well, the only person to blame is you. Like, you walked into that office looking for something. You moved to LA. The city chewed you up and spit you out, and now you're mad. Well, you should have stayed your ass back in Dayton. Like, that's what you should have done. We have to stop the podcast very shortly. So what are some final words?
Oh, we didn't even get into Housewives and what's his name, Andy Cohen.
This will be, we'll do a podcast about reality TV.
Okay.
Because I have a lot to say about that too.
Uh-huh.
But we should say goodbye.
Okay.
So say goodbye.
Au revoir.
Oh, you've been saying something else every time.
Power to the people.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, love, peace, and hair grease.
Oh, boy.